32 days. Not 32 months, not 32 years, 32 days. That's all it took for the most powerful military force in human history to do what empires, superpowers, and coalitions spent decades dreaming about but never dared attempt. In 32 days, the United States military didn't just fight a war. It ended one. And not with a whimper, not with a negotiated stalemate, not with another endless quagmire, but with the kind of overwhelming, categorical, civilizational dominance that geopolitical historians will be writing about for the next 100 years. And then, when the world thought it had already seen the most stunning military campaign of the modern era, President Donald J. Trump stood before the American people and made an announcement so unexpected, so sweeping, so strategically profound that even his closest allies were caught off guard. Not just a declaration of victory, bigger. Something that reached far beyond the battlefield and quietly rewrote the entire future of the Middle East. You are not going to want to miss this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, we both know you don't have time to watch the news 24/7. That's my job. Patriot Alerts are your truth filter. I sift through the madness and send you what actually matters for you and your loved ones. Scan the QR code below and let me save you hours. Last night, President Trump stood before the American people and made an announcement that left the entire world speechless. In a televised address, President Trump declared that Operation Epic Fury had nearly completed every single one of its military objectives. Iran's Navy, gone. Air Force, gone. Its ballistic missile program, crippled. Its nuclear sites, obliterated by B-2 stealth bombers so thoroughly that Trump said it would take months just to get even near the nuclear dust. Trump didn't just declare victory. He issued an ultimatum. He looked directly into the camera and he said this.
I've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable.
That's so Trump. We never said we were going to do that, but that is happening. It's called strategic ambiguity, and it drives our enemies nuts, as well as it turns out, our doomer podcasters, the MAGA backstabbers that have egg all over their hypocritical faces at this point. But the key signal there was clearly those two words, Stone Age. Trump warned that if no deal is reached with this new leadership, which is it's de facto a regime change, their entire upper echelon of their previous leadership has been wiped out. So if this new leadership does not come to their senses, the U.S. will simultaneously strike every single one of Iran's electrical generating plants, and that includes Iran's oil infrastructure. The only thing left that could help it rebuild. That remains in America's crosshairs. So his message was simple. We got all the cards, you got none. Right? This is classic escalation ladder theory, right? That the side that occupies the higher ring in the escalation ladder, that side that can escalate always and above the other side, that side always wins. It's a physics theory as well as a military theory. This is classic escalation theory rhetoric. Do this or else. And we can play that game until you are literally blasted back to the Neolithic period, back to the Stone Age. Again, the key calculus here is that Iranian forces consistently decrease while U.S. forces consistently increase. That's the calculus. Notice that we are building up our presence in the region, all at the very same time their capabilities continuously diminish. Again, if you're even so much as entertaining the absurdities, the patent nonsense coming from some corners of the internet claiming that Iran is winning this, I mean, you got to understand that that's a phenomenon that the Portuguese scholar Bruno Marçais calls virtualism. And he makes the extended argument that particularly in America, we've evolved into a kind of virtual society. It's very interesting, where politics and culture increasingly take place inside digital bubbles. So in other words, because we're online 24/7, it's very easy for us to live in constructed virtual worlds rather than in visceral reality. And what Marçais argues is that American life, in terms of it being so much online, being consumed in a virtual world, it tends to lean into make-believe, where people choose the story world, the narrative world, digitally constructed, that they want to inhabit, and they treat it as more real than the actual facts on the ground. And I would argue that's exactly what you're seeing, generally speaking, with these doomer podcasters, as well as the legacy media, ironically. They sound the same, right? What they all have in common is they're all living in a make-believe world, an online world that has very little resemblance to reality. But regardless, the reality is that the objective empirical world is being radically reshaped by President Trump. And he said something last night that very, very few people, except for the most astute analysts, noticed. And it turns out it was the most shocking, far-reaching moment of the speech. And that is what we are about to discover. The energy markets yesterday, right? Did you see that? They were flipping out in the early morning hours. Monday actually saw the wildest single-day oil swing in modern history. Brent crude surged past $119 a barrel early in the session. It's the largest single-day spike since 2020 as Strait of Hormuz tanker traffic remained frozen. And then Trump said that the war was basically complete and would end soon, and he promised to hit Iran 20 times harder if they blocked Hormuz oil flows, and lo and behold, prices cratered. Brent plunged around $88 a barrel. And that price fluctuation reminded me really of the volatility that our savings are subject to. I mean, imagine this, right? 30 years of work, 30 years of saving, 30 years of sacrifice. Then, say, 2 years before your retirement, the market tanks. And just like that, boom, everything you built, gone. And it's gone, as they say in South Park, right before the finish line. I mentioned the other day, it happened to my grandmother. The market tanked and she saw half of her savings just wiped out. And here's the truth nobody wants to think about. Anything can change overnight, as we just saw yesterday. Now, you've been led to believe that you're safe, sitting in paper assets. But look around you. Look at what's happening right now. War with Iran escalating, oil prices surging, global markets are reacting, and your retirement is sitting there fully exposed, tied to every bit of it. Gang, the wealthy aren't sitting in paper. The education aren't. Central banks aren't. So why are you? More and more Americans are waking up to something most people never even find out. You can actually move your IRA, your 401k into physical gold outside the market. No taxes, no penalties, done. That's exactly why I teamed up with Augusta Precious Metals. They showed me how it all works, and they've helped thousands of Americans understand how to protect part of their retirement with real physical gold. So here's what you need to do right now. Go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052 and get Augusta's free gold guide. And they'll show you exactly how it works. It's clear, it's straightforward, every question answered. That's turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052. Gang, 30 years of work shouldn't ride on one market cycle. Protect what you built. Get the guide today.
I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. They've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form.
Now, if you've been with this channel for a while, what did President Trump just do there in naming all those countries, right? What did President Trump just do? See, this is what makes geopolitics fun. He just literally enunciated the new Middle East. That's the Middle East that our children and our grandchildren will be inheriting. It is the Middle East of the Abraham Accords. This is what geostrategist Zineb Rabua has been writing a lot about of late, particularly in Abraham Accords 2.0. Operation Epic Fury has handed Washington the rarest of strategic gifts. It's a genuine opening to forge a Middle East architecture designed around an Abraham Accords 2.0. So the original Abraham Accords, which was signed back in 2020, one of President Trump's, as it's turning out, one of his crowning achievements. It was originally signed between Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco. They were never just a peace deal. That's what you have to get. The Abraham Accords were security architecture, a Washington-anchored alliance designed to contain Iran. Every new Arab state that normalized with Israel narrowed Tehran's room to maneuver and radically diminished their influence in the region. Iran knew this, especially the growing ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia that the Accords were helping to facilitate. October 7th was Iran's answer. That's what you have to get. Hamas was just the instrument, not the cause. Hamas was used for Iran's cause. Now, if you followed our channel back then, you'll know, and I remember I was in Texas at the time. I was at a conference in Texas and did a number of videos from there right after October 7th. And I made the argument that Iran was central to October 7th. October 7th was designed to disrupt primarily the growing amicable relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia, particularly, and Israel and the Gulf states more generally. It was designed to shatter the Abraham Accords, which sought to create a Middle East regional architecture based on Israeli might and Arab money. It's already happening in what's called the I2U2. Are you familiar with this? It's a networking alliance between Israel and India, so I2, two I's, and United Arab Emirates and the United States, two U's, I2U2. So Israel and India provide tech ventures, while the UAE provides the investment capital, all the while the states offer security guarantees. So this combination of muscle and money is going to be the new architecture of the Middle East to basically turn the whole of the Middle East into a massive Dubai, finally securing peace and prosperity of the region. That vision to turn the Middle East into a grand, glorious Riviera is precisely what Iran has been actively attempting to destroy. And October 7th was their key shot. So what has President Trump done here in these last 32 days? Well, he announced it last night. He has completely and totally defanged Iran. Iran's entire missile and drone network, the one built to hold Gulf capitals at perpetual risk, it's been completely dismantled, destroyed. Gulf governments that Tehran was trying to coerce into submission are watching that threat evaporate in real time. And crucially, and this is, again, it's absolutely key, again, something neither the media nor the MAGA Turncoat podcast will ever admit, this is so key. The Arab streets never rose up in solidarity with Iran as Tehran had predicted they would. Right? Think about where are all the massive protests against Israel and the United States in the streets of Syria or Yemen or Jordan or Egypt? Where are they? Where are they? You see, the billions that make up the Muslim world that was supposed to rise up against Israel and the United States. I heard it ad nauseum again in all of these these dissident channels. Oh, United States, they have no idea what they've just unleashed. It never materialized. And it's not China and Russia. Now China and Russia are going to get involved. They're going to show that. No, they turned their backs on Iran. Iran stands completely alone. And that changes everything. That gives President Trump the window now to broker more normalization agreements with more Arab states, issue formal security guarantees, and weave Israeli military capabilities directly into a Gulf-wide deterrence network for the foreseeable future. That will, in turn, not only eliminate the Iranian regime's capacity to disrupt this peace and prosperity architecture for the Middle East, but it will also completely box out China, who's been the chief financier for Iran, buying up 80% of its sanctioned oil. China's been closing in on obtaining a monopoly over the single most important energy choke point on the entire planet, Hormuz, through its finance proxy, Iran. And had Iran obtained a nuke, that Chinese monopoly would have been permanent. And the region would have forever been subservient to the whims of both China and the Iranian regime. That would have been the world our kids would inherit. And that world, thanks to President Donald J. Trump, is now officially dead. The Abraham Accords are about to bring a peace and prosperity to the region like never before seen, all while boxing out China permanently and making China subservient to an American brokered order in the region. Last night made it absolutely clear. The old Middle East is gone. A new world is rising. And it has MAGA right at its very center.
If this video resonated with you, there's a whole lot more where that came from. The Courageous Patriots Club is where we go deeper. Click the link and step inside.